soil. Soil is a mixture of organic matter. What is organic matter? Yeah, it's like the leaves and the animals and all that eventually fall on the ground, they die, they decompose, they become really, really rich in nutrients and stuff, right? So it's a mixture of organic matter, minerals, gases, liquids, and organisms. What would an organism in soil be?
A worm.
Like a worm, bacteria, anything else, ants and stuff like that, that together support life. So soil supports life. Earth's body of soil, called the pedosphere, has 4 things. So soil mainly does 4 different things, okay? Thing number 1 that it does is it helps plants grow, right? It is a place that supports plant life where they can come out of the soil, create oxygen that we breathe in, right? As a means of water storage, supply, and purification. So if you guys have ever heard of groundwater, right, that's when it rains and then the water soaks into the earth and then it naturally is pulled towards a creek or a river that pulls it towards a pond or a lake or an ocean, right, that then it evaporates up into the clouds and it rains down again, and that's the water cycle that you guys learned about in like 3rd grade, right? So it's a storage system, but it also purifies that. So the guy that I took over for used to do a lab, and I'm pretty sure I would maybe be frowned upon if I did it. But let's take this as an example, okay? If you guys had a big old vat of soil, and you had a jar of your own pee, and you drilled holes in the bottom of the bucket, and you poured your pee on top of that soil, by the time it drained out the bottom, it would be clear and it would be drinkable, okay? So soil naturally purifies and filters liquids and urine and all that type of stuff, rainwater, all that. By running it through soil, it naturally purifies that to the point where it is drinkable. So if you guys have ever seen like a natural spring, anybody ever seen a natural spring where maybe out of soil you're seeing water drip and fall? So most of the time that is safe to drink because that water has naturally been filtered by the soil. Okay, not all the time, sometimes there's bad bacteria in it, but it modifies the atmosphere, so it helps regulate that through the water soil, right? Regulates our atmosphere, regulates the air that we breathe, and is a habitat, it's a home for those little bugs and those little organisms and stuff, right? Does this make sense to you what soil is?
Yeah.
Okay, it's not super complicated. But today, everybody done copying that?
Yeah.
Today, what we are going to learn about is the very, very basic information that you guys need to know about soil, okay? So the first thing that we are going to learn is what is called a soil horizon. So a soil horizon is basically a fancy name for a layer, okay? So just like onions, just like ogres, soil has layers, right? Like trash. No, I slid on purpose. Right? Onions have layers. Shrek has layers. Soil has layers. Yeah. You what? He's an ogre. Ogres have layers. I don't know.
You never watched it, right?
But does she have?
Flakes. Layers. They're together like this. There's layers. Flakes.
So, in that space, below that line where you just wrote the definition for soil, we are going to spend all day today talking about the different layers of soil and how they function and what they look like and how they operate. Is that cool?
Sure.
So if you guys would pretend that that area of the board is the blank space that you guys have on your paper, and go ahead and follow along so that helps you like space out how much room you need. Right, on that page 75. So go ahead and draw this. And we're going to talk about the different layers that soil has. Okay. Now, in my mind, I am good with drawing stuff, writing stuff, learning stuff, right? But I think it also helps when you can kind of picture it or do something with your hands to help picture it and learn it too, right? Yeah? So I have presents for you.
Is it dirt?
I have presents.
Is it dirt?
I'm going to give you this.
Is it dirt?
I'm going to give this to you. You cannot open it until I tell you, okay? All of you promise you will not open it until I tell you?
I
You already know what it is, because you told us it's soil jack.
Well, Nick, don't keep spoiling the surprise for me. Okay?
Am I allowed to move it to the other side of my desk?
Yeah, you
Ask her purple boyfriend.
Right. Yeah. Oh, yeah. You don't go like that,
Yeah.
I'm sad enough, I know it's coming.
I'm not saying you.
I didn't see it.
Okay. So, here's what is going to happen. In just a minute, we are going to open it. Do not open it yet. Do not peek. Okay? In just a second, we are going to open this.
No,
Well, don't finish it yet. I didn't hear nothing.
I don't think any of you should be talking right now. And if you do want to spoil surprises, we'll never have surprises in here. Oh,
Logan.
who's pineapple?
I did it all right.
I don't like that.
Okay, listen, please. Okay, so in this second, you are going to open these bags. Typically, I would give you guys one thing at a time as we did this lab. However, with COVID procedures, I had to do all this last night and make these little individual bundles. So, you guys are going to have everything you need in front of you, but I'm going to ask that you guys please follow directions, prove to me that you can have fun in class, so that we can continue having fun in class. But we're only going to use the items that you are told to use as you're told to use them. Cool?
Uh-huh.
Can you do that? Can you follow directions? Okay. So go ahead and open up your bag. Get all your stuff out of your bag.
I know, no, I can fit my whole face.
Do not open anything yet, right? You have not been instructed to open anything yet other than the bag.
No, no.
What do you mean by that, man? I mean by the one that doesn't shower. I shower a little bit.
I was like,
That's still gross.
Bro,
That's not
I'm
right.
doing it. I'm just gonna go take a shower. I'll feel lazy, so I just stand under the water.
Okay.
get in there and get your Netflix and walk out there.
Yeah, I'll use it when I have one.
So, again, to prove that we can handle fun, hands-on things,
She's still just talking about.
to prove that we can handle fun, hands-on activities, we are going to pay attention to all this. We're going to do as we're told, right? We're going to draw as we're supposed to draw. We're going to play as we're supposed to play. So the very first thing that I need for you guys to do is take your writing utensil, and you're going to draw a straight line about a quarter of the way up your little cylinder. Okay?
Do I make my own little cylinder?
Who even
Yes.
thought about hiding?
So, hey, pay attention. Yeah? Yeah? Bless you. So, this layer that we just drew is what we call our horizon. Okay? What is called the R horizon. This is also called hard bedrock. It is unweathered material. And this is basically really not even soil. Okay?
That's just wrong.
So the R horizon is far enough down. This is typically going to start at about 48 inches deep is going to be the top of this. Okay, so that's almost as tall as some of you guys. But about 48 inches down, so we're talking like when you guys learned your layers of the earth, right? You guys learned like the crust, the mantle, the core, right? Now we're talking like the layers of just the crust. So a little tiny sliver around the edge of the earth that you guys learned about in science class, we're taking that and bringing it down into further layers. Okay, so furthest down, 48 inches to kind of until you get past the crust is what we call this bedrock. If you were to try to take a backhoe and dig through that and dig down into it, your backhoe would get to it and go, right? And it wouldn't be able to dig down through it. It's a hard, solid, undiggable. If you took a screwdriver to it like we did at soils practice, right, you would not be able to break through and like chip any of that off, okay? So it's so far compressed by gravity, it's so much unweathered, and there's no really minerals and stuff down there that it's a really hard surface. So if you guys noticed, if you take your clear little cup, right, it's kind of like a really big cup that we made right here, okay? So we're going to pretend like this is our cup. And you are going to take one Oreo out of your bag. And you're just going to put that one Oreo. You're just going to put that one Oreo in the bottom, just like that. Okay, so it is one solid, massive chunk that we're calling our R horizon. Okay, got it? Our R horizon. Our R horizon. Get it? The next layer that you guys are going to draw. So you guys should be drawing what I'm drawing, yeah? Okay. And this is what we call our C horizon. Okay. What can also be called the substratum. So if you guys were in soil judging last week, you had 3 different containers of soil that you textured, right? You pulled dirt out of and you ribboned. So one of those would have been the substratum. So you're taking samples from the C horizon. Usually the substratum is at 30 to 48 inches, kind of that 18-inch area in the soil on average, okay? This is weathered material. What does weathered mean?
It's been rained on.
It's been rained on, right? It's been through, so that's kind of what we usually think of. It's been through the ringer, right? It's been processed a lot. It's been worn on a lot. And it's that weathered material. So it's not very rich in a lot of stuff, okay? What this looks like, it's not totally solid, but it is really rocky. It's starting to get hard. It's starting to condense and become part of that bedrock layer. So we are going to take the other 3 Oreos that we have, okay? And you're going to take them in one hand, and you're going to take your cup in the other hand, and you are going to crush them up. Yeah, you can crush them in the bag and take your worm and your corn out.
Come on, Owen.
Squish it real good.
I know I'm not. I'm trying to wait. I'm not sure the real thing. You don't have like mentality strength. No, I don't.
Really?
Yeah, I have a lifting strength. I actually can't. I suck at it. No, I legit cannot open those like Okay, Olivia, how is different?
So you should have your solid bedrock at the bottom, and then you should have some really rocky. If you push hard into it, you could displace it, right? But you've got your rock there at the bottom.
It's how we make dirt pudding.
No, it's not hard to make dirt pudding.
I know.
It's about it tastes like it.
Okay. So are we kind of seeing this so far? You've got your solid mass at the bottom. You've got your rocky above it. You with me?
Yeah.
Okay. So above that, is what we call our B horizon. Okay, we're catching on kind of in alphabetical order so far, right? This is what we call our subsoil,
I know where that's at.
or our zone
It's right under the.
of accumulation. Okay. So this subsoil is really rich in iron. Usually it's got a lot of clay in it. And typically it starts at about 10 inches deep and goes to about 30 inches. Okay, so it's about a 20-inch layer of soil. So as B horizon, this subsoil gets to the point where it actually starts to look like soil, right? It starts to look like dirt. It's got that same consistency, kind of the cookie crumb type of thing when you take it in your hands and go like this, right? That it would be little particles for the most part. The difference with the B horizon is that at this point, there's been something that's called leaching take place, which is where we talk about soil kind of purifies stuff. It pulls out impurities in water. So when you get down to the B horizon, that 10 to 30 inch below the surface, you're losing a lot of your nutrients. All right, there's not going to be a lot of really great organic matter and organisms and stuff like that living in it. And this is usually about as deep as your typical roots grow. Okay, usually they're not going to go past the B horizon. Okay, so because it looks like soil, but it's not super rich, we're going to take our vanilla snack pack. Okay, open that bad boy up.
We ain't gonna put it all in there. It's gonna suck.
Wait a minute.
No,
There's no way we're here talking about.
Oh
and use your shovel.
yeah. Your shovel.
Your shovel.
I've been eating my shovel it all in there.
You're gonna shovel it all in there.
Oh, it'll fit. Exactly.
Hey.
That's too far.
Logan?
All right, and you're gonna put that subsoil in there and kind of smooth it around so you've got a nice smooth top to it. Use your shovel, distribute that around. Use your shovel.
I like how you say shovel.
Straight on my
Yeah.
You there for that, Logan? Well, it's getting carried by.
You can lick your shovel, but don't eat your soil yet.
Toilet.
That's right.
Okay, don't eat anything out of here.
No.
So your soil profile should look something like this once you get it nice and smoothed out.
Yes. I'm so good.
Yeah, mine's close too.
So you've got your massive piece down at the bottom, which is your what horizon?
Your R horizon.
Your R horizon. You've got your kind of rocky area up here, which is your what?
Your C horizon.
Your C horizon. And then you've got what's going to look like soil, but not be quite as dark, not be quite as rich. And that's your B horizon, right? Your subsoil.
Okay, so is this supposed to be grass?
We'll get there. Don't you get ahead of me.
More about if we
Okay.
Sarah, why do you have cheese like that one chicken that Simple Me has? That's what it looks
The
like.
next horizon, the next layer that we are going to learn about is what we call our A horizon. Okay, this is what we call our topsoil. This is going to be really dark in color. So for those of you who went out to the soil pit, do you remember seeing the top foot or so that was a lot darker, significantly darker than
No,
the
I
rest?
feel like over there was lighter.
Yeah.
Sun.
Yeah.
It's been sitting like
So that top little bit is what we call your topsoil. So this is going to be really rich in minerals.
rich minerals. About it.
Rich, rich in what's called organic matter.
Okay. I'm kicking this up.
And this is going to be about 2 inches below the soil, or below the surface is where that's going to start. Okay, so from that 2 to 10 inch range is what we're going to call our topsoil. We're also going to demonstrate this in conjunction with our very top layer, which is our O horizon. Okay, and that's in that 0 to 2 inches. So the very top 0 to 2 inches of your soil is what we call the O horizon. okay? That O literally stands for organic matter. So that is the top 2 inches of the soil is your grass, is your leaves, are your little birdies that fall out of the tree after they finish their job here on Earth, right? All that stuff that falls to the ground and dies and decays and becomes that really rich in mineral and fertilizer. All your waste that falls to the ground, right? You go out in the cow pasture and there's some nice cow pies that are eventually going to decompose and soak into the ground. All of that top 2 layer, that's what we call our organic matter. It's super rich in minerals, super rich in nutrients, really, really good stuff, right? So as we work our way down from our O horizon to our A horizon to our B horizon, it's starting to get lighter. Those nutrients and stuff are going to leach out of the soil. They're going to be absorbed by living things above the surface of Earth, right? They're going to be purified out before you get that deep.
I like the way you put things when you say that.
Oh yeah, what?
But after the birdies at the extra time on there.
Yeah. Let's say bye-bye.
That's very good.
Okay. So that's what we call our O horizon and our A horizon.
Now we're good.
So we're going to take our really rich colored organic matter here, right? Open that chocolate snack pack. Back.
Shovel it all in.
Shovel it all in. Use your shovel.
You got it.
I like tapioca.
Ooh, tapioca has those lumps in it.
The what?
Has the lumps in it. Ugh.
I love tapioca.
Not mine
All right, and go ahead, use your shovel and really even that out too. Really spread that out.
If I can eat a whole chocolate cake by myself, you can get that.
So when you're finished with that, you should have it nice and smoothed out, right? You see that? So this should look very similar to the drawing that you have on your paper. We're still not eating any of it, okay?
No.
So we've got our thinner, really dark topsoil. We've got our lighter, more nutrient depleted, but still fine subsoil. We've got our rocky, but still breakable, right? Our C horizon, our substratum. And then we've got our really, really dense layer of our R horizon down there at the bottom. Now, before we do much else with this, we have one more layer to learn about, and then we're going to do some practical application, okay?
What's that?
So if you look at where your chocolate and your vanilla pudding meet, okay, is it a straight, fine line?
No.
What's it look like?
It's all
Kirby.
Mine's like this.
It's kind of curvy, maybe some of it blends together,
It's all-
right? It might be like a light brown instead of being white and dark brown, it might be a light brown that's blended together. So, guys, let's look up here.
Chrissy.
Hey,
Honestly,
it's okay, look up here. So where that vanilla and chocolate mixes together and has that light brown color, that is what we're going to call our E horizon, okay? So that's like this area right here, E horizon. So that is between our A and our B horizon, and that E stands for a word that's called alluviation. Everybody say that. Say it one more time. Alluviation. So alluviation literally just means significant loss or significant loss of minerals.
No, not thinking about
So that E horizon, where that chocolate pudding is starting to blend with the vanilla pudding, all right, it's starting to get a little bit lighter. Guys, if you don't want me to move your teeth, you're gonna be able to pay attention. I don't care. So where that chocolate is starting to become a little bit lighter, right, they're kind of blending together, it's not any straight line. That is what we call alluviation, where the leaching is starting to happen. Some of those minerals are starting to fade, starting to deplete, right? And it's starting to become that second horizon. It's not any, when you look at the soil, it's not a neat straight line between your A and your B horizon, right? There's a process of where that kind of happens. So that's what you can kind of see here too. It's not any neat straight line, right? But it's a blending. So we are going to kind of apply some of this stuff. We're going to use some of the last accessories that we have in our bags. And one of the things that you should have are 3 seeds of corn, right? 3 little corn kernels.
Okay.
So when we plant our crops, typically when our roots grow, if we have a plant that's up here, okay, our roots are going to grow at the deepest down into the B horizon. So when we plant our crops, how deep do we usually, if we're going to plant a garden, you're going to plant a field, whatever you're going to plant, how deep do you usually sow those seeds?
Well,
Okay, let's say we're planting corn.
like 6 inches.
That deep?
Like
No,
3 to 5
it's
inches.
It's like 2 inches.
So you're usually going to plant it about 1.5 to 2 inches. So just past that organic matter, just into that A horizon, okay? So we're going to take our things of corn. Guys.
Oh, okay.
The reason that I gave you 3 is because in a hole of soil, I was always taught, and a good practice is to plant 3 kernels of corn, okay? The reason being, there's an old wives' tale that says this, is you plant 1 for the blackbird, 1 for the crow, and that will leave 1 to grow, okay? Plant 1 for the blackbird, 1 for the crow, and that will leave 1 to grow. So that way, by the time the birdies get to 2 of your seeds, you still have 1 that can develop into corn, okay? So what I want for you guys to do is we're going to practice this concept of planting our seeds into the A horizon. So you're going to use your shovel, and you're going to dig 3 little holes, plant your corn and cover it up, but make sure you don't plant it into your vanilla pudding at all, right? Or you'll have it too deep.
Oops.
Okay? So don't plant it into your vanilla pudding at all.
Going down.
Oh, I love to put chocolate pudding on my
Okay? And go ahead and make sure you cover it up with your soil.
All of it?
Yeah. So you should have 3 different holes for your 3 different kernels. Make sure you don't get into your vanilla pudding, and then you want to cover it up so the birdies don't come along and get it.
I did it.
Planted it. Can't even tell.
We gotta pull that.
So it should be down in your A horizon. Now, if I were to say, okay, I've got a area of land, but instead of planting it into crops, I'm going to plant it into maybe some fescue. I'm going to plant it into some timothy grass. I'm going to make it a hay pasture. Maybe I just have a blank area of dirt in my yard that I want to seed the grass so it grows, right? How do you plant grass?
Yeah, you
You throw
Can put it on
grass
top.
seed, straw, and some water.
Yeah, so you're usually, instead of digging down 2 inches, right, you just kind of sprinkle your grass seed on top of the soil. But, hey, don't start yet. But when you do that, if you're sprinkling it onto, like you're reseeding a field, usually by the time you just sprinkle it, there's enough grass or cover that it kind of protects the seed from blowing away and displacing. If you've got a blank area of dirt in your yard, usually you want to sprinkle that seed on the grass, and then you want to kind of take your hand and go like this. That way it works into just the very top little bit of dirt, and that way your seed doesn't blow away, okay? So we are going to take our grass seed, and while trying to not make too much of a mess, we're going to sprinkle it evenly on top of our soil, just like if we were planting some grass.
On top of that, all of it?
Yep.
Even the corn?
Yeah. And then you're going to take your shovel, okay? You're going to take your shovel, and you're just going to kind of spread it out and work it down into the ground just a little bit. So please don't do this, but if you have it loose and you blew on it, right, your sprinkles would go everywhere, okay? If I take my shovel and I kind of work it into the ground a little bit, then if I were to think about doing that, it wouldn't really go anywhere, right? So you should still be able to see your grass seed.
I like Gordon Ramsay.
So it kind of be worked into the soil a little bit. You'll see that?
Like
Okay, kind of working into the soil a little bit.
Like that?
My
All right. Yeah. Yeah, see how you kind of work it into the soil a little bit.
mean, it actually helped.
Okay, what can we just go?
Go. Eventually, my it's so
And then we put a wormy in the dirt.
All right, and then lastly, where did we say that our organisms live?
in
In the
the
dirt?
tops. No,
No.
the A horizon. No.
The
If you look at
horizon.
the thing.
Yeah, A horizon.
So typically they kind of stay between the O and the A horizon. So we're gonna give we're gonna bury our little guy down in there just a little bit. It's not raining, so he's not coming up.
Do you still see him? Or is
You
he
can
buried?
see a little bit of him.
Like this?
Mine looks like a mouth.
Mine looks weird.
So before we eat this or disturb it at all, okay? If we take our cup and hold it up in front of you, okay, and we compare it to what we have here on the board,
Perfect.
all right, you're gonna see that thin, dark material, right? That is your A and your O horizon. You're gonna see a little bit of mixture with the vanilla. That's your E horizon, right? Your alluviation. You're gonna see your still what looks like fine soil, but it's depleted of color and minerals a little bit, right? That's your B horizon. That's your subsoil. You're gonna see your rocky substratum. Okay, so it's really weathered. It's not really soil anymore. It doesn't have a lot of nutrients, but it's not totally solid yet. And then you've got your really solid mass of bedrock down at the bottom. You guys see that?
Yep.
Yeah.
Does this help you relate what we learned?
Yeah.
Awesome. You guys have questions?
Please pardon the interruption. Could I please
All
have
right.
Abby Raver to the
Dig in.
office also?
I can dig in.
You can dig in. Go for it.
Wednesday at lunch. Please bring your lunch to appropriate